Hi, it is Jesse Williams from Christ in a Culture War podcast. This is another episode, 2 days in a row. You're welcome. Don't know why I started wearing polos all of a sudden, but anyway, so the channel is doing okay, and I just want to be clear about some things. The channel and the way that I want it to go is me breaking down the Bible in ways that people can understand it, right? I'm not saying that people are dumb or that people aren't smart, but I have a wide range of friends that have wide, varying knowledge bases of the Bible, right? So I have people that are new to the faith that don't know a lot about the Bible. And then I have friends that you could darn near call theologians, right? And I want the channel to be good for everybody. So I kind of have an idea of going through the Bible, not like verse by verse, because I'm not a pastor and that would take forever, but kind of going through the Bible topic by topic in chronological order. So I actually made a list on my phone starting from creation all the way to Revelation and just breaking down the topic, of course, using the Bible. When I have my tripod and I'm able to post stuff on YouTube from the house and kind of do longer form content, then the episodes will be a little longer. I just want to keep the content coming. And so I think that's a good idea. You guys can tell me what you think, but we could start in Genesis, talk about creation. We don't have to go, and we can talk about, there's different views on creation, like young earth, old earth. And I know there's Christians on both sides of that argument. And I don't think it's something we should divide over. And then you could go from there straight into the fall, right? The ramifications of the fall, the theology behind God's curses on Adam and Eve and the serpent. What was the serpent? Moving into some of the descendants of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Seth, the promise of Seth, the moving on from that into, we're not going to go through all the genealogies, but there is some interesting stuff in the genealogies of some of the names of the descendants of Ham, Shem, and Japheth, descendants of Noah, sons of Noah, and then moving into the flood, and was it a worldwide flood? The reasons for the flood, some of the more sensational things happening, of course, with like the Nephilim in the book of Enoch, and then you can move into after the flood, so after the flood is where you get the descendants, right? And then you can get like the Tower of Babel, the significance of that, and God confusing the languages, and then you can kind of just go to Abraham, and then you have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 sons leading up into Joseph and his being in slavery and delivering Egypt from a famine. And then you move into Exodus with Moses. We're not going to go through the entire Deuteronomical law. Like, I need to study more on that, and I would love to watch other channels on that. But we can go over the significance of the law. And then Joshua and the Promised Land, going into the time of the Judges. Judges is a fascinating book of the Bible. There's some crazy things that happen in Judges, which leads to Israel asking for a king, and then you get Saul and David, and of course, your favorite Bible stories of David and Goliath, and then what made David a man after God's own heart, David's significance in the line of Jesus. Go to Solomon good, then Solomon not so good, right? Solomon being led astray, the consequences of that being the separation of the nation of Israel into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, the 10 tribes in the north, 2 tribes in the south, leading all the way up into where you have guys like Isaiah and Jeremiah warning Israel about what's going to come, leading to Assyria dispersing the tribes in the north and then the Babylonian captivity. But out of that Babylonian captivity is where we get Jeremiah 29:12. That's the context of that verse. It's where we get Ezekiel and Daniel, like some of the most amazing books in the Old Testament. The significance of the life of Daniel and the prophecies of Daniel and some of the end time stuff in Daniel, and how Jesus claimed to be the Son of Man, referencing a passage in Daniel. the prophet, right? And then I'd really like to study the other Old Testament prophets, because there's some gems, the minor prophets as I call them, and there's just some fascinating stuff in those books leading up into what they call the 400 silent years, which are not silent. It's just that there were no major prophets in Israel bringing prophetic messages to the nation of Israel. Then you get John the Baptist preparing the way. You get the birth of Jesus. Then you get Herod trying to stop this king that's being born in Jesus. Jesus' ministry. And that's going to be several episodes, because you get the teachings of Jesus. You get Jesus talking to the Pharisees. You get Jesus absolutely claiming to be God. You got Jesus being the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies. You got Jesus claiming to be God, absolutely. We talk about the reason why Jesus had to come in human form. Then you get the betrayal of Jesus, the death of Jesus, the arrest of Jesus. Jesus before the Sanhedrin, Jesus before Herod and Pilate, Jesus' conviction, Jesus' crucifixion, his resurrection. Then you got his 40 days on earth, and then his appearances to over 500 people. You've got Jesus' message, and then Jesus' ascension. And then you've got a small period of time. You got Pentecost, and you've got these once scared apostles, 11 of them, and then they get Matthias, because Judas hung himself. And then you get the whole book of Acts. So you get the early explosion of the church, and you get the conversion of Saul, who becomes Paul. You get the Pauline letters. You get the journeys of Paul. You get Paul and Barnabas and Paul and Silas. And you get all these letters that lead up into the book of Revelation, and the different views on Revelation, and what does that mean for us as Christians, right? So I know I just went through kind of the story of the Bible, and I left some things out. I didn't mention Job or Esther, things that we will most likely, almost positively cover, some gems in the Psalms and the Proverbs, and just, sorry, there's some gnats if you can't see them out here. I'm at the break table at work. So that's kind of be the purpose of the channel, but there's going to be some random videos. I'll see something online, something on TikTok or YouTube, or something reading the Bible myself that I may want to comment on. So that's the video for today. I hope you watch. I hope you're blessed. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to doing more content, more long form content, short form content too. So stay tuned. This has been a short episode of the Christ in a Culture War podcast. Like, subscribe. This is on YouTube. You can look up Christ in a Culture War, or you can just watch on TikTok. So be blessed. I'm going to probably post this on both. So hope to see you there.